Osda, Sunalei, welcome. We're here on this fine morning today, towards the end of summer. Next weekend is fun time, Labor Day weekend, so some of you are going for vacations, I'm sure. And so have a good trip. And others will be working, like myself. And so we look forward to seeing what's going on and seeing how it goes for another Labor Day. But this morning, we come to look at Aduladi, strong believer. And so let's get our Hebrew Bibles open to, ironically, Song of Solomon, also known as the Song of Songs, chapter 2, verses 8 through 13, or Aduladi 2, 8 through 13. The voice of my beloved. Look, he comes, leaping upon the mountains, bounding over the hills. My beloved is like a gazelle or a young stag. Look, there he stands behind our wall, gazing in at the windows, looking through the lattice. My beloved speaks and says to me, Arise, my love, my fair one, and come away. For now the winter is past. The rain is over and gone. The flowers appear on the earth. The time of singing has come, and the voice of the turtle dove is heard in our land. The fig trees put forth its figs, and the vines are in blossom. They give forth fragrance. Arise, my love, my fair one, and come away. And while you ponder while we're using that text, you can move to New Testament Jamie. Aduladi 1, 17 through 27. 17 through 27. All right. We're going to do a little Cherokee here now. This is a long reading in Cherokee, but we'll get through it pretty quick. Niga go, Osda, well, my language reading this morning is not so hot. I'm still recovering from my trip to Iowa City. Got back yesterday afternoon after spending many days up there at the transplant team, where I got my going over, and they figured out what was messing me up and got it fixed, and I'm doing okay now. So let's start over. Niga'a Osda da Nedi Gesai Ale Niga'a Osani da Nedi Gesan Garland Ladi Didale Hanska Ale Atlo Asihida Ha Didale Hanska Aga Yanli Gistan Yi Igaga Ti Uwehi Nazgi Gawadane Tliyansdi Ni Gesana Gesai Ale Gawagata Hasdi Gesan Na Dayaladanawi Gesan Uwasan Uda Nateda Iga Nago Wisan Uwatana Gano Hizda Gayegogi Nige Sana Nazgi Ayan Igan I Eganale Nahi Nazgi Ya I Galis Dodi Nazgi Kega Nelana I Gesan I Nazgi Yazdi I Ja Gesan I Dali Nakli Nadina Nani Ha Ose Nuleya Gesesdi Na Uda Do De Ye Usganolia Gesdi Unine Isdi Usaga Nolia Nuni Talabo Hisdi Yakwi Yeno Utla Woski Tla Yigonana Go Isdi Go Do you go do Da ya go da Unela some of these words mean Unela Nahi Ujeliga Nazgi Iyazdi Iyanda Nis Nija Nehizdi Niga Yadaha Gesai Ale Ulosans da Nahihi Uyo Gesai Ale Udado Lesdi Ija da Naha Desta Dalila Jaha Kanoheda Ga Yetlanahi Nazgi Yelikwo De Gawazdi La Di Jezgi Di Aseno Kanoheda Niga Wesga Ijadane Gezdi Tlezdino Ijada Giz Gikwo Uwasan Ye Gizesdi Ija San Ye Jadelidas Giz Giz Di Iya Yeno Gilo Adan Giz Giyoko Yegi Iyadan Heno Nige Sana Yegi Ka No Heda Niga Wes Ii Nazgi As Gaya Da Jela Jagawatis Go Nuzda Uwasan Uka De Dahi Adage Di Uwase Yeno Adago Wajis Goi Ale Ada Skoi Ilakono Iyada Uwage Wisgo Nazdahi. You know, that's the end of verse 24, and I think that pretty well covers what we're going to do today. So I'm going to read it in English now, just to get the English out of this street. James 1:17 through 27. Every generous act of giving with every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the God of lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow due to change. In fulfillment of God's own purpose, God gave us birth by the word of truth so that we would become the kind of first fruits of God's creatures. You must understand this, my beloved. Let everyone be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. For your anger does not produce God's righteousness. Therefore rid yourselves of all sordidness and rank growth of wickedness, and welcome with meekness the implanted word that has the power to save your souls. But be doers of the word and not merely hearers who deceive themselves. For if any are hearers of the word and not doers, they are like those who look at themselves in a mirror. For they look at themselves and, on going away, immediately forget what they were like. But those who look into the perfect law, the law of liberty or freedom, and persevere, being not hearers who forget, but doers who act, they will be blessed in their doing. If any think they are religious and do not bridle their tongues, but deceive their hearts, their religion is worthless. Religion that is pure and undefiled before God is this: to care for orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself unstained by the world. Hear the words of the Gospel of James, or the Book of James, in the Gospel. Well, maybe it should be called the Gospel of James. But that puts it in a different time context, because Aaron L. Uikti, who actually wrote the commentary on this particular reading, identified how this text was most likely written after the Romans had destroyed the temple. And the dispersion was on, so he actually wrote this book, or this letter, it was actually a letter, intended for the believers, the Jewish believers, Messianic Christians, Messianic Jews, who were in the dispersion throughout all the lands. We're talking on down to Egypt, on up to Rome, and beyond, in all directions. And so he was reaching out to them and reminding them that a strong believer makes the difference in every community. And so now that we know that this is in that context, that the Romans had come, got mad at the rebellion, wiped everybody out, everybody was scattered. The temple followers were in reconstruction mode, having to reinvent their religion, which they did. The Jewish people went from being focused on being at the temple to being at the synagogues like they had done before in the past. And so that's kind of the direction they went. So the Pharisees took over at that point and really went after it. But during this time, James is saying, in this text, we have to think about what are the characteristics of a strong believer. And James really gets into that. He really explores that and challenges the believers to really focus on the areas that would help make them strong believers. He doesn't come right out and say, this is what it takes to be a strong believer. He's saying, this is what it takes to be a real believer. So maybe we should have said this is to be real believers versus strong believers. But, that's a different story. And we'll talk about that. I got issues around that kind of language. But the characteristics of a strong believer, at least according to Aaron L-Uiti, is that, number one, slow to anger. Well, what does that mean? I've heard people say that there's a difference between anger and being hurt. And, a lot of times it's hard to tell because anger, believe it or not, is not one of the four fundamental basic emotions that human beings have. It's an outproduct of an attitude within each of us that leads us to anger. We get angry when our values and beliefs and perceptions are challenged. When we feel like we're out of control, we get angry as a defense mechanism in order to restore control of the world around us, ourselves and others. People say, well, you make me angry, and that's not so much the case. In fact, one of the favorite phrases of angry people is, the devil made me do it. Boy, I'll tell you what, we can get all worked up about that. Because I got news for you, the devil never made you do anything. You chose to do it. So don't make the devil a scapegoat. Instead, the devil doesn't have the power to make you do anything. As believers, Christ lives within us. The devil's got no power over us any more than the devil has power over Christ. So if you're saying the devil makes you do it, and I know Christians who say that, you are, as James is saying, deceiving yourself, and that is not a good thing. Okay? People who are defensive feel threatened. And the first question you should be asking is, why do I feel threatened? Is somebody actually pointing a gun at my face? Or is somebody just challenging my beliefs? Or calling me on my double standards and incongruities? Because I'll tell you right now, you got them. You got character defects, you got flaws, just like everybody else. And if you try to pretend that you don't, you are deceiving yourself, as James says. So basically, James says that strong believers are slow to anger because they have confidence in themselves and in their values and beliefs. And what other people say and do around them is not powerful enough to sway them. But then we go to the second characteristic, which also means that they're not stubborn, thick-headed, what's that favorite term people use when hard-headed? You're not hard-headed because one of the other characteristics that are pointed out about people who are good, strong believers is that they have a willingness to listen, to hear other people's position, to hear the argument, to seek the evidence, and to assess the validity of the claims being made. Wow, that's a biggie. I was going to talk to you about a homeless veteran who recently represented an example of a lack of willingness to listen, but I got a bigger one. Let me tell you about disciples of General Assembly. I found out this last week during a conference call with Reverend Dr. Sharon Watkins, President and CEO of Disciples, and Ron Diggs, President of Disciples Home Mission, and April Johnson, President of Reconciliation Ministries, and myself, that at the General Assembly in Ohio, here, the Disciples General Assembly, there were 4,000 people, maybe more. And yet, of the thousands of people who walk past Sacred Hoop's booth, only a very, very small percentage were willing to engage us in conversation to hear our case, to allow us to present our evidence, to hear our argument, to listen. They didn't have a willingness to listen, and even a bunch of them disdained us. Some even committed acts of racism against us, and I'm thinking of one woman in particular, blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman, who really pissed everybody off. Anyway, the fact is, wow, what's wrong with the picture when believers, or people who claim to be believers, lack that willingness to listen, to hear other people's perspective, to look in that mirror, somebody else as the mirror, to give them feedback on how their attitudes and behaviors are really perceived by others outside of their own little community, their own little world. How about that? So according to James, wow, let's get down here. Is that really a religion that is worth paying attention to? God, James, he didn't cut any slack on there. He says that religion is worthless. He's really being harsh. I think I'm being harsh. Y'all need to read what James has to say. That dude has got some boundaries. All right, so what's the next characteristic of a strong believer? Willing to be a doer and not just a hearer. I talked about that last week when Jesus himself challenged people that way. In the Gospel of John, look it up. Go watch the video from last week. And in the summary I said, maybe Jesus was fed up with the groupies hanging around, and the groupies are what James is talking about here. This exact same message coming decades apart, different formats, different voices, same message. Take the hint. James is saying, if you're not doing, what's up with that? So he's saying that strong believers are those who are willing to be a doer and not just a hearer. Are you a doer, or are you just kicking back, listening on Sunday mornings, or watching the video at your leisure or whatever, and then going on about your business? Are you supporting this ministry? Are you supporting your community? Are you a doer? Are you supporting Jesus? Or are you just a groupie? Okay, characteristics of a strong believer. Real or false religion. Wow, that's heavy duty. Heavy duty. Or worthless religion. I should have said worthless religion. Okay, now, in this case, James is clarifying. He's saying this is what it means to be a doer. First and foremost, number one, we can tell if you're a doer if you're helping the widows in distress and the orphans. Are you helping to feed the elderly? Are you helping to feed and clothe the children who are without? Now that's a measuring stick, a measuring rod that God has created, that when you get before God and that rod standing there, God goes, do you measure up? Did you care about people who are suffering, vulnerable people? If you can't even say yes to that, what's the point in continuing this conversation? That's pretty direct, pretty straightforward, no gray area. talking here in other terms, 21st century mental health, religious terms. Are you being of service to vulnerable people? Well, who exactly are vulnerable people? That's the first question you got to ask. Well, James says it's the elderly and the children who are suffering because they're without, they can't do for themselves. So are you backing them up? Are you doing something to back them up? There are other vulnerable people. You're looking at us. Native American community in North America, been stomped on for centuries. Talked over and over again. You are not going to hear me in my discussion about the suffering of Native Americans until it's over. Are you helping us help them? What are you doing to back us up in our support of them? Yeah, just saying. It's right here. Pretty obvious. Hello. So there you go. Finally, and this is a real kicker, all of this can be wrapped up under one subcategory, kind of a umbrella, which Esau clarified, and he said there's two laws, two basic laws that define strong believers. Loving God, being of good service to God, loving others, being of good service to God. Pretty simple stuff. That's what James is reiterating. He's saying a loving spirit is what shows who a strong believer is. Are we loving all the time? No. We have to deal with that myriad of other stuff going on. Sometimes we stray. It happens. We're human beings. Can we make something good from it? Yes, we can. We can do it right. And when we get into that, do we really want to think about what does it remember? Do you remember what it's like to really, truly love? I mean, just really, truly love. And that's where, believe it or not, we got to this. The Song of Solomon comes in. Yeah, this is pretty great stuff. Julia M. O'Brien says, basically this reading is a textbook guide on how to love. It's a great example for it. Points out what it feels like to truly love someone, to truly love others. This is an interpersonal relationship situation that is applicable to everybody, because we can all remember how it made us feel when we were loving and helping others. You know, feeling youthful, vigorous, happy, excited, looking forward to the future, wanting to share. Man, isn't that true? One thing about love, it makes you want to share. You want to just give it all to everybody and say, hey, let's have some good time here. Let's just embrace life. And that's what this reading is saying here, you know, that's coming out. When you're loving, you're caring, you got a willingness to share, a willingness to risk everything to help improve the quality of life of those who cannot do for themselves. Because they don't have access to resources, they don't have access to education, they don't have access to a good quality of life. Loving people are willing to take the risk to share, to help those in need. What are you doing? You doing what's comfortable, or are you doing what's right? Think about that. Pretty heavy stuff today. James doesn't pull any punches. How are you treating yourself? How are you looking at yourself? Are you slow to anger? Do you have a spirit of love? Are you willing to listen to others, to hear their stories? You know, hearing people's stories is an important part of helping to heal people's wounds. Slipping in my therapist mode here, my chaplain's mode here. It's a proven fact that people who are victims of trauma, all kinds of research been done on it. I should have brought it with me. I can quote it to you. I'll save it for later. But there's been plenty of research done proving that talking about your trauma, doing good service work for others, is what it takes to make something good come from that wounds, to help move beyond that pain and suffering, to make a difference. yourself and for others. It's a win-win deal. Are you doing that? I know a lot of you out there that are listening have had a lot of trauma in your lives, and that's unfortunate, but here's how you can fix it. First and foremost, get a hold of me. We'll talk some more. I'm going to read another poem. I like reading Native American poems. They're really good. And this is very appropriate to what we're doing here today. This poem is To Those Who Matter. That's the name of it, To Those Who Matter, by Roberta Hill Whiteman, who is Oneida. That's up north, in case you don't know. And it's from Native American Songs and Poems, an anthology by Dover Publications, Manola, New York, 1996. And To Those Who Matter. And it was written specifically for Oneida speakers and teachers, but it's for everybody. The sunlight in your heart hovers, in your smile when you share your knowledge. Women and men of intelligence and grace, you created the spirit of this place. How you have aided my soul, that fluttering thing that tries to launch across the haze, that wants to flit beyond the first green leaves of life. The moonlight in your heart fills this city as it sleeps and dreams. That moonlight knits our wounds through the many ways you think of others climbing the hills behind you. Cold Mountain said, don't lose the mountain's happiness, or the moment's happiness. The same wind that woke him wakes us now. The starlight in your heart twinkles in Duck Creek, glistens like dew on early grass. It helps the buds break as now into a shock of green. When we talk, sometimes I see one intense, immense earth, wider than our words and more profound, brilliant as a breath, wearing your radiance. So we want to remember that we have the ability, we are empowered by Yohewah, Jehovah, our Creator, Jehovah, Aduladi, to make the choice to be a just hearer of the Word and a doer of the Word. The difference shows if we have a loving spirit. What does your spirit show? Walk in beauty. Whatever.